for this week, the day after Halloween, whichever you prefer. Either way, hopefully you shared some of that candy with your kids, or if you don't have any kids like Tyler Sullivan, here's just more for you, right? Either way, this is The Sweat. I'm Adam Kaufman. Welcome in.
What's going on, guys? And yes, I take all the candy for myself. We hope you are having a great week, and we're getting you guys ready for a great weekend in the NFL. Week 9 kicks off in just a couple of hours with the Niners home against the Raiders. You excited for it?
Oh, gross.
What?
That's just a disgusting football game. It's awful. These teams, they've combined to start 2-13, 9 straight losses. It's been ugly.
Yeah, it's been kind of gross. But we're going to try to help you guys get this thing going, make you feel a little bit better. We're going to bring in our DK Live experts, Steve Buchanan, Jeff Ulrich, and Reed Fowler. Guys, what's going on?
I'm just happy to be on with one good analyst today. That's great.
Thank
Steve
you very
making
much.
a NFL showing.
He's dressed up as Halloween as a good host. I mean, come on.
It's actually hard to tell with Jeff who he's ripping on. Like first it was maybe it was going to be me, and then looked like it was Reed.
It's 100% me. It's 100% me.
All over the place.
What's that say about me then?
But yeah, he just doesn't love you as much.
Yeah,
Reed's in Hawaii. Like he deserves to get whatever ripped on I do. He deserves it right now. So
I'll take that.
Terrible punishment. That really nice weather. All right, Showdown, guys. Showdown contest tonight. Again, Oakland and San Fran. The loser gets locked in Alcatraz. So there's a lot on the line here and tons of question marks surrounding the quarterbacks. Now, Jeff, would you rather, or either for that matter, it's not even a would you rather, it's would you bother rostering Derek Carr or Nick Mullins in his debut? Yeah, Nick Mullins, not beat nobody.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Derek Carr is close to a must roster tonight. I mean, as far as maybe he's not played that well and the Raiders aren't a good team, but you look at the other offensive options and you have to roster someone. Derek Carr is still completing like 70% of his passes through the games, and he's had a couple big spikes. So the way this game is setting up, it does seem like the Raiders might be in a good spot here, and they still have some offensive weapons with Jordy Nelson, Jared Cook, and both running backs who were actually pretty productive last week. So I think Derek Carr is definitely for showdown formats in play. As far as Nick Mullins goes, I don't know. You have to roster someone from San Francisco. I think I would rather just go with like Kittle or one of the running backs.
Reed, you're a Raiders fan. You must actually be able to look in the mirror today.
I mean, I can't. It's bad. It's starting from the preseason. I mean, till now it's been bad. But I agree with Jeff. I mean, Derek Carr is someone that we talked about this earlier weeks before, is that there are some spots where you can take advantage of Derek Carr. And this is potentially one of them, right? San Francisco has been hurt on both sides of the ball, but Mullins isn't necessarily an extremely bad play. He's a bad play because we don't know anything about him, but there is something to say with a quarterback that there is no tape on, right? I mean, this guy is a rookie, comes from Southern Miss, didn't do much and hasn't really done much to begin with, but at the same time, he is the quarterback that will be going out there. So if you want to be contrarian, because if you're playing this showdown, you really can take dart throws, right? Because there's no real a lock in this tournament or in this contest. Mullins is someone that I'm looking at rostering at 10-2 and saving money so I can get both tight ends, so I can get Carr in there as well. So Carr is the only, probably is a lock, but not by much.
Bukes, do you follow into that? Do you subscribe to that same theory? You got to play Mullins just to make more room in your lineup for other mediocre players?
I mean, to be fair, we have seen some Mullins in the preseason. He was 31 for 43 with 396 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions.
Well, at least somebody did their research today.
Right there, a little Nate Peterman right there. But I mean, in terms of salary, no one really blows you away here. I mean, if you could look at Derek Carr, if he's your captain, he's 16,500. I don't think I'll be going that route. But if you just put him in a flex, he's 11,000, which really isn't too bad salary-wise. He's going to get enough volume, I think, where he's a viable play here. And he does have that multi-touchdown capability. I mean, I don't think he's going to blow this game away. I don't think he's going to have, over 20, 25 DK fantasy points in this matchup. But this is just going to be an ugly game overall. But Carr should give you enough that he should be worth the play here tonight.
It's funny, your view is what Carr's receivers usually say. I don't think I'll be going that route.
Yeah, well, that's usually how it goes.
Pass on that.
Speaking of, we can kind of go off
Terrible.
that. Amari
Thank
Cooper.
You. Thank you, Jeff. Good to see you.
We got you going.
All right, yeah.
Amari Cooper traded last week. Carr has to throw to somebody, right? I mean, that is the name of the game. So who do we expect to fill that role, Reed?
I mean, we all thought it was potentially going to be Martavis Bryant, and then Brandon LaFell swoops in and takes all those targets in that touchdown. So Seth Roberts, to me, is the guy that I'm looking at. He's been a red zone target before last year. And he's seeing, right, that snap count in that slot. And if you're trying to pay down for someone, he's at 5,800. Pass DVOA, San Francisco is against all other receivers, not the ones and twos, is 28th. So I do like Seth Roberts in that spot. Again, he's been proven to be a red zone target. To fill a spot for a number one, you really don't have a number one outside of Jared Cook. So to fill that spot, it would only be Seth Roberts to be the most effective of those receivers, not to fill as a number one receiver.
You should agree with that? Go with Seth Roberts, or do we, give another nod here to Jordy Nelson?
This is such a crap game, so let's go with some crap. Let's just go with some crap advice. It still should be Martavis Bryant. I mean, they just decided to ignore him last week, but in GPPs, I'm more than willing to take a shot on him here. I mean, obviously, you're not going to play Bryant in cash. I mean, somebody who wasn't even targeted last week. That's far from a safe play, but he has the ability to be a difference maker here in this game. I mean, he only really needs one long ball to make a difference here in GPPs, and a lot of people are going to be staying off of him because he burned so many people last week. Hey, how you doing? I was one of them. I don't mind taking a shot here with Bryant because, look, it's not like he's not going to ever play again. The usage is going to be there at some point when Gruden figures out who he actually has on his team, because he didn't even know when Cooper was traded. I mean, Bryant's going to be the guy there at some point. So, you know what? It's a crap game. Let's throw some crap on the wall. Let's take Bryant again.
All right, Jeff, are we just going to hope for then maybe just a big play out of any of these receivers, even if it's not Bryant?
I mean, if you're playing an Oakland receiver, that's pretty much all you can do is hope, because I have absolutely no idea what's going on in John Gruden's head. Look, Jordy Nelson played 90% of the snaps last week. I feel like if there's anyone you can trust as far as a receiver goes in Oakland, outside of maybe Jared Cook, it's got to be Nelson. I mean, at some point, these snaps are going to translate to targets and fantasy points, and he has put up a big game so far. So I agree with Steve, though. I mean, Martavis Bryant doesn't need to play like 50% of the snaps to go off. He just needs to play a few snaps and catch a few long balls, because that's what he does. So I agree with Martavis Bryant GPPs, but if I'm picking like one Oakland receiver I have to target, it's got to be Nelson. I mean, at some point, he's going to get weighted towards the targets. He's still going to play every snap. So give me Jordy, I guess.
So we named all three receivers.
Yes, that's basically. We covered our ground there. I like it.
I covered our ground. You can make your own decision.
So Brandon LaFell probably.
So Brandon LaFell, yeah, exactly.
Name them all with absolutely no concrete, strong take about any of them.
Absolutely love it.
All right, so
there's nothing concrete about the Raiders to be good with.
No, right. But at least you and Bukes there are wearing the Raider colors. You're in support today, so there's that.
All right, messaging.
Lots of running back options as well, guys. Now, I wouldn't claim they're good, but they are there. They're options. Starts with Doug Martin. There's Jalen Richard. Of course, Matt Breida on the other side. Do you like any of them, Steve?
Hi, geez, it's just such a mess. I mean, this is probably going to be a clean sweep. I mean, it's got to be Jalen Richard. And he's turned into the Raiders version of James White, essentially. He's just been peppered with targets, averaging 6.5 per game, and is essentially just a receiver because he's only carried the ball 13 times this season, but his targets on a PPR site like DraftKings is what is going to help you immensely. And he's honestly one of my favorite captain plays on this for this slate here this week. The 49ers running back situation is just way too messy for me to really want to try to pick apart here. Richard's getting the targets. He should continue to get the targets, so just make it easier on yourself and just go Richard.
Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco, it's just like good luck guessing. I mean, this Mozart guy is done composing symphonies and is going to play again tonight. Then you got Matt Breida, who's like part robot and keeps getting injured, and they put him back together. So good luck guessing which San Francisco guy is going to get touches. I think I'd take Doug Martin because I think Oakland might actually dominate this game. I mean, I just think San Francisco is that bad, and now they're starting Mullins. Martin had 4 red zone touches last week. He's going to get the goal line carries, had 17 touches overall. Both Oakland RBs definitely in play. I just think I'd take Martin because of the way this game might shape up.
All right, Reed, you want to make your guess?
Yeah, no, I'm sticking with the theme of choosing a different player and sort of sticking with the theme with what Bukes was saying. Just throw some crap at the wall and see what sticks. Matt Breida, right? This guy, for whatever reason, keeps on playing. We keep on saying he shouldn't be playing, but he keeps on coming in. Jeff's right. He's like a bionic man where he has so many injuries and he could give us 2 snaps and then go out. But if we're playing this showdown, which is if you want to, it's going to be a guessing game. And for me, Matt Breida is the clear talent of all the running backs. Richard gives you the safest floor. I totally get that. But if you look at the Raiders, right, they're 31st against DVOA against pass-catching running backs, 26 against rush pass DVOA. The Raiders are bad. San Francisco is bad, but if you can get low ownership, Jalen Richard is going to be heavily owned in this showdown. People are going to be scared of Breida for all the points that these guys have made. So I'll take that. Again, I'm guessing at this point, if I got Mullins as my captain, might as well back it up with Breida as my running back. Just waste some money.
Yeah, just throwing crap against the wall. That's basically what's going on for. I mean, just a crap Thursday night football.
Yeah, how
game.
long until we actually talk about the Sunday slate?
Yeah,
how much deeper in the show?
We'll get there later in the show. First, let's just dig through a little bit more here. We got to talk about defenses again. Neither of them are good. Jeff, no surprise there, but given the quarterback concerns, is any of them a good option? Maybe Oakland now?
Yeah, I don't mind Oakland. I mean, I think pairing Oakland and Doug Martin makes some sense. I mean, look, all the Raiders have to do now is just pile like 9 or 10 men in the box, stop the run, and try and let Nick Mullins beat you. Good luck with that. So I think Oakland, Doug Martin stack's firmly in play today.
All right, Reed, what are we thinking? Are we going to go through the Nick Mullins experience?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Raiders aren't that good. I mean, their defense is bad. Let's also forget that it's the Raiders' defense. They can give up a ton of yards, but they can get sacks. They only have 7, and they've been trying to find a pass rusher, surprise, for the last 8-9 weeks. They can't get to the quarterback, but if you have a rookie quarterback in this game, the Raiders do provide a nice option. San Francisco's not too bad either. The Raiders' offensive line not good and hurt, so I'll go with the Raiders.
All right, Bukes. Any reason why you maybe play San Francisco?
Nope.
I like it. What about Raiders?
Yep.
All right. There you go. Easy enough. See, that's the analysis. Precise what we need.
Yeah, quick and to the point.
Definitive answers. I like it. All right, guys, thanks. We'll talk to you a little bit later in the show, hopefully with some more meaningful football games going on.
Yeah, Reed, go take a lunch break, pal.
Yeah, just go hang out. We'll get back to you in a minute.
Breakfast time.
And when we come back, we'll do a little basketball. How about we do that? It starts with a big night on the hardwood from last night.
I'm Brendan Glasheen here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Derrick Rose turned back the clock Wednesday night, career-high 50 points, 19 for 31 from the field, went on to log 69 DraftKings points. Let's just pump the brakes a bit. It was just one game, but it is fair to wonder how Rose's performance impacts the rest of the Wolves moving forward. Minnesota in action Friday night at Golden State. Clearly the Wolves had no trouble scoring the ball with Jimmy Butler on the bench, resting. Maybe the teams just had it up to here with their superstar. Fine, Jimmy, we can do this all without you. No Butler meant a ton of minutes for Rose and Josh Okogie. And Rose certainly took advantage of the spot. 50 points are the most he scored in a game since 2011. Are the Wolves going to win tomorrow night against the loaded Warriors? They could, but that doesn't matter to us. Rose proved to us that last night the Wolves still have plenty of fantasy value without their unhappy superstar.
D. Rose, pretty good. All right, let's keep that hoops conversation going with Adam Mancuda from Phantom Sports, also Matt LaMarca of Action Network fame. In fact, old Action Matt here made a bold prediction last night. Let's relive it, shall we?
You absolutely need to hit the lock button on Derrick Rose. He's averaged 1.39 DraftKings points per minute with Teague and Butler off the floor this season. He's seen a usage bump of almost 11% with those guys off the floor this season.
Hey, Matt, do you have the lottery numbers by chance? I just want to write those down real quick.
That wasn't nearly as hard of a call as picking the right lottery numbers. I think the whole world pretty much knew that Derrick Rose was going to have at least a lot of shot attempts in that game. I never expected him to score 50 points.
Yeah, I was going to say, nobody saw that 50
he was just a really good spot for him in terms of volume.
Don't lie, you're just holding out on us. We'll see you in some island somewhere.
Gonna have to impress us again tonight, pal. It's a hell of a job, kid. All right, Tears of Joy coming up now. And if you're new to the show, that means we are eyeing the best picks for tonight's Tears contest.
Yep, and that first tier has 3 names of similar fantasy point average. You have Joel Embiid, Nick Jokic, and Russell Westbrook. So, Matt, which one do you like out of here?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Russell Westbrook. I know he's had a little bit of a slow start to the season, but he's just the superior fantasy asset of these 3 guys. I mean, Embiid is really consistent. He can get you that, 50-point game most nights. And Jokic has a big ceiling, but he's just super inconsistent. I think Westbrook is the best combination of big upside and enough frequency that he hits that upside more than, once or twice a month like Jokic does. He's still dominating the basketball this year. He's got the second highest usage rate in the league. And one thing that I really like about the Thunder is they're playing at the 3rd fastest pace this season after ranking just 15th in pace last year. So for me, the question is when the monster game is coming from Westbrook, not if, and I want to be on him when it happens.
Adam, do you think that that's tonight? You looking at the monster game?
Yeah, well, first of all, unlike those football guys, Matt and I get along really well. I mean, look at us. We're both rocking the throwback jerseys. I got Hurley on today.
Wow, Bobby Hurley.
It's Westbrook for me tonight as well. Look, Jokic is on the second night of a back-to-back. Embiid's the third game of the week for him. So to me, take Westbrook. The guy's going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to score the ball. He's going to rebound the ball. He's going to dish the ball out to Paul George, who also had a huge night the other night. I think he's just in a prime position to go off, and I'm going to want him, just as Matt said, in my lineup when that happens. So I don't think it's close here. I just don't trust the centers and the big men in this matchup. Give me Westbrook, who's going to have the ball in his hands. He's the best playmaker in the league. So for me, I'm going to take Westbrook.
I can tell you, both of you, I have a deep respect for the look, but it's also the day after Thanksgiving, and it just couldn't be
Halloween.
Halloween, whatever the hell. Who cares?
I know, we're looking forward. I already got Christmas music going.
It's true, he does. But what I was saying was that you must have coordinated this. You can't both be rocking the throwbacks, just coincidentally.
I mean, as I said, we like each other, so we talk, we communicate.
He challenged me to a throwdown. I had to break out Rasheed Wallace, Portland Trailblazers.
Oh, man. 2 thumbs up.
No, you guys, you look good. All right, Paul George coming off a huge game against the Clippers, 58 DK points. You like the Thunder wing best in the second tier here, Adam?
I actually like Damian Lillard the best here. He's got 2 60-point games in his last 4. I also think that this is going to be a high-paced game between them and the Pelicans with Drew Holiday on a second night of a back-to-back as well. So for me, I'm going to go Lillard. I love Paul George and what he did a few nights ago. Won me some money, but you know what? I'm going to take Lillard, who has been really electric so far this season. And just like we said with Westbrook, he's the guy with the ball in his hands. It's him or C.J. McCollum every single time down the floor. They really don't have any other playmakers on the wing, so give me Lillard tonight.
Matt?
This one's pretty close for me between Damian Lillard and Ben Simmons. If you look at the Fantasy Labs NBA models, we have Simmons with a slightly higher median projection, but Lillard has the slightly higher ceiling projection. So I'm going to go with Lillard. I agree with everything that Adam said. It's a great spot against the Pelicans, who have played at the second fastest pace this year and rank in the bottom 10 in terms of defensive efficiency. The Blazers have the highest implied team total on the board right now at 118.5 points. The only concern that I have is that I think there's going to be a lot of chalk in some of these tiers. So I'm a little bit worried about picking Lillard because I do think he'll be the most popular option. So if you want to maybe go a little bit more contrarian, I think Simmons is an equally good play.
All right. Could just be the jersey talk in there, too. You gotta take
I'm
that
jealous.
into account.
I kind of wish I was wearing one.
I know. I really would have rocked like an old school Paul Pierce one or something like that.
It's not that old school anymore.
It is for me, old
That's
man.
not old
Come
school.
on now. Come on, guys. I'm a little bit younger here. I'm more like Tatum now. Come on.
You're like a Raptors Vince Carter.
I do love that, too. An old school Garnett Timberwolves. But, put that off there. All right, let's get back to Tier 3 here. Kemba Walker, he seems like the obvious choice. He's averaging 10 or more fantasy points per game than the rest of the field. Play him, or is that too chalky, Matt?
No, yeah, this is one of those tiers where I think you have to eat the chalk. Kemba is just so much better than all the other options in this tier right now. I would honestly pick him if he was in Tier 2. I think that's, the kind of player that Kemba is right now. So I think getting him in Tier 3 is pretty much a steal. He's on pace to shatter his previous career highs in points per game and usage rate. He's shooting over 10 3-point attempts per game, which is just incredible. And his average of 1.41 DraftKings points per minute trails only Westbrook among point guards on today's slate. So I really like Kemba. I think he's, an easy call here, but one that you're going to have to make.
Yeah, Adam, you feel the same way? Is it just an easy call here?
Yeah, I think you have other options in those other tiers. I could easily see someone taking Embiid. I could easily see someone taking Simmons. But when Kemba is so much better than the other guys, just again, points, you mentioned it, 10 points more per game than someone else, you just eat the chalk and hope someone else, in one of those other tiers, differentiates you. Because I think Kemba, again, I keep coming back to this. Who else is handling the ball for that team? Maybe Nicholas Batum, maybe. But again, Kemba's going to have the ball in his hands. He takes a ton of shots. I just love him in this one, so give me Kemba. I agree with Matt with 3 for 3.
All right, we are somewhat tight on time, so we can't go tier by tier all the way through. So someone that you like from tiers 4 through 8 who appears to be a must-play, Adam. What do you think here?
2 quick ones, Drew Holiday and Steven Adams. No one in Steven Adams' tier, which I believe is tier 6, to me equates with the value to Adams. And again, Holiday pushing the pace in that matchup with Lillard. I love Holiday tonight. 28 points, I think, 9 assists last night. Give me Holiday and Steven Adams as 2 guys.
Matt, are we going to get any disagreement here, or are you going to also say Drew Holiday and Steven Adams?
I don't think you necessarily need to play Adams, but Holiday for me is like a lock in Tier 4. You have to play him. I think he might be the highest owned player regardless of tier. But again, like it's just one of those spots where you can't fade him with Davis more than likely out of the lineup. The only thing that's kept this guy back from having a huge season so far is that he shot the ball incredibly poorly to start the season. But that's bounced back over his last 4 games, and as a result, he has at least 42 DraftKings points in 3 of them. So, yeah, give me Drew Holiday for sure here.
All right, fair enough. By the way, would Antoine Walker be old school? Does that help?
Yeah,
Okay.
No,
that's old school.
That's
I can respect Walker a lot more than Paul Pierce, who retired 5
I'll be
minutes.
honest, I wasn't thinking of listening to them at all. I've just been thinking about jerseys. I think I'd go Jason Kidd Mavericks.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah, all right.
All right, guys. We'll
I'll
get
come
the
back
jersey
for
talk
another
out of the
one.
way. We'll talk to you in a little bit. Football on the way, hockey too. But first, football, just the way the Lord intended. We'll be back after Levitan's Leverage featuring 2 Adams. Enjoy.
It's week 9 in the NFL, and I'm excited. We need plays so good that you'd think you'd get in trouble for finding out. All right, I'm Adam Kaufman with Adam Levitan, and to me, Levitan's Leverage, it's the answer to the test. It's what you need to know. Levy, let's start with the Saints receiver, Tre'Quan Smith. $4,200 entering this game against the Rams, but as his price has gone up the last 3 weeks, his production has actually gone down. So why is this going to be different?
Yeah, so his production has only gone down because Drew Brees has not been forced to throw the ball very much. In this game against Jared Goff and the high-flying Rams offense in the Superdome, which is kind of the Coors Field of the NFL, we're going to see Drew Brees' attempts go up into the 30-plus range, almost certainly 35, 40 would not even be out of the question in this likely shootout. So then we get a chance to see Tre'Quan Smith, who's playing every snap opposite Michael Thomas. Cam Meredith only played 7 snaps last week. Now we get a chance to see Tre'Quan Smith, who was arguably the best receiver on the field in the entire league this preseason. Now we get the chance to see him spread his wings against Marcus Peters in this struggling Rams defensive backfield.
Well, other side of that matchup, of course, you have Cooper Kupp. He is $6K dealing with a knee injury that's rendered him ineffective or straight up absent the last few weeks. Why is this a good spot? Is it just, as you said, all that offense you expect?
Yeah, so I think people might shy away from Cooper Kupp. They think that he's still hurt. Sean McVay came out and said that Cooper Kupp could have played last week if they really needed him to. He's practicing in full this week. I expect him to be perfectly fine, and he gets the best matchup out of all the Rams wide receivers in this game. He'll be in the slot. Against P.J. Williams, we'll see Marshawn Lattimore on the outside, a lot against Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods and these guys. So to me, Cooper Kupp is kind of the part of this pass game that Jared Goff looks to in the red zone, and in a game where the Rams are likely to score 25, 30, 35 points, Cooper Kupp is going to be heavily involved at 6K.
How about Cam Newton? 6,600 heading into this test with Tampa, and he says he feels great. That's good news. It's shown the last few weeks. He has averaged about 26 points, fantasy points, of course, during the run. You like him to crack 30 this time against that defense?
Yeah, I think 30 is anytime asking a lot for a quarterback, but Cam Newton certainly has a chance here. I mean, the best quarterback play all year has been to simply stream the quarterback who is facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's Cam Newton this week. We know he has a huge rushing floor, 40, 50 yards on the ground, realistic on a week-to-week basis. And then when he throws the ball this week, it's just going to be so efficient, particularly with DJ Moore's role expanding, particularly with Greg Olsen being really healthy. We know about Funchess. We know about Christian McCaffrey. So the Panthers are absolutely loaded here and a really, really good, almost ideal hand-picked home spot against the Bucs.
All right, make sure you read Levitan's Leverage on the DK Playbook. Levy, thanks a lot, pal.
All right, good luck.
All right, thanks, me. Our football crew is back. Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, and Steve Buchanan. Gents, time for the NFL Spin Move, where we dissect the top storylines from the day. We're going to start with the Dolphins. Brock Osweiler starting against the Jets. Crushed it his first start of the year. Not so much his last couple, though. Should people fade the Finns here, Steve? What do you think?
No, I love Danny Amendola on this spot at 4,700. This is someone who's has exceeded his target count since Tannehill went down in 3 games compared to the 5 games he had with Tannehill. He's had 24 targets over the past 3 weeks, and the Jets are just so poor against slot receivers that this just sets up for a great matchup for Amendola. I mean, Buster Skrine is playing again, which is a gift to Amendola. He's allowed 21 receptions on 28 targets for 273 yards with 2 touchdowns. If he's getting the 8 targets he's been getting with Osweiler, he should be in a fantastic matchup here. So I'm loving Amendola.
Reed, are you as big a fan of Danny Amendola?
Yeah, well, I'm as big as a fan of anyone going up against Buster Skrine. So, yeah, I think Amendola is in play here. You got some contrarian plays with him. Jakeem Grant is another one where he's seen 12 targets, over the last 2 games, which is really nice for this deep threat. He's in on a bunch of the snaps here too as well. And if you want to pair that up potentially with the special teams where he could get you a return, this guy is the Tyreek Hill type player, right? He has that speed, he has that agility. And the Jets, in terms of going up against opposing receivers, second and third, they're not that good. Again, reason why? Buster screen. So if you can get anyone against Buster screen, like Beeks was saying, Amendola, I don't mind that play at all.
Jeff, you getting ready to Brock around the clock, pal?
You know, I don't think this game is one that we necessarily have to go out of our way to target. That being said, like, the Jets secondary is pretty bad. Just be aware that, I mean, this is the lowest, I think the second lowest point total on the slate. So these are two kind of pace down teams. Not necessarily expecting a shootout, right? But there is value in the Miami receivers, and it's the two guys they already mentioned. I mean, Jakeem Grant and Danny Amendola. I think Grant is obviously more boom or bust. They moved him outside last week. Didn't really work out that well. But it really only takes one play for him to go 60 yards. And then Amendola, it could be a pure volume play. He had one of his best games with Brock Osweiler. So there's definitely potential there. I think they're both more towards tournament targets than cash game necessarily. Maybe Amendola, but in the cash game. But they're both in play. It's just not really a game I'm going to stack or anything. It's like a one and done kind of thing.
All right, so Brocktober kind of dipping into November.
Yeah,
I just need us to get to December because I want to do Brocking around the Christmas tree. I just need to say that line and actually mean it. I need it. No, I don't need to fail. I need it.
No, got a hard pass.
Come on now. All right. Well,
I don't control
we'll
the
move
graphics.
on from mine. Well, you know what? I'll make it. I'll do it. All right, guys. Demaryius Thomas, he's gone from Denver. That opens up the door, though, for Courtland Sutton to become a bigger part in the offense. He's cheap at $3,900. Is he a must play at that price, Reed?
No, I don't think he is. I think you'll see Courtland Sutton in the 25+% ownership. And when you get someone like that at this price range, I don't think he's a must play at all. Look, he's going to slide into that number 2 receiver in Denver. He's probably going to acquire a lot of DT's red zone targets. You know, you saw DT that is, he saw 9 targets inside the 20 so far this season. And Courtland Sutton is the guy, and that's why they parted ways with Thomas. And when you look at that price range, there's a guy called David Moore, the same price tag, at $3,900, who has a much more solidified, or he has much more opportunity and a much more solidified role in the Seattle offense. We see Russell Wilson target this guy. He went for 94 yards and a touchdown last week, and this guy is still part of this offense. So I'd rather get him for a fraction of the ownership at the same price tag and not necessarily have to play Courtland Sutton.
Yeah, we'll talk about David Moore later on the show. 4 touchdowns the last 3 weeks. Dude has been a stud there. But, Jeff, do you think that maybe the high ownership that Courtland Sutton will probably have, does that affect this at all?
I guess a little bit. Courtland Sutton is like a number 1 receiver in waiting here. So there is a lot of upside here. I would say this, his floor is still pretty low, even though Demaryius Thomas is gone. I mean, Demaryius Thomas had a lot of bad games this year. So Denver is a team that likes to run first. If they jump out on front of Denver, you're just going to see a lot of running and a low volume passing day. And that's a very real possibility. And the Denver defense is still good. Houston's got one of the worst O-lines in the league. So don't be shocked if that happens. That being said, I think this price is just too good to kind of ignore. I think especially for a cash game lineup, you're probably going to want to heavily consider him. I think for GPPs, these higher percentage players are always a little bit worthy of fading. And there are other options. David Moore only seen 4 targets. His best game has been 4 targets this year. So he's just as boom or bust. Really, I think all the receivers under there are kind of boom or bust this week. But yeah, if Sutton's ownership gets too crazy, I can see, game theorying yourself out of him, I guess.
All right, Steve, how do we feel about Sutton?
Yeah, I mean, just going off what Jeff was saying, the ownership is going to be there. Everybody's going to be flocking to Sutton this week, and I feel like that could be one of those chalk plays that ends up going bust this week. I mean, let's not forget, too, the Texas defense isn't terrible. It's not like the Broncos are going and playing the Chiefs or anything. The Texans have been pretty good. Is it enough that you would fade Sutton completely? No, absolutely not. You're getting immense value for a receiver who moves up in the depth charts at just $3,900. But this is not like a slam dunk matchup for him. And then I feel like that could be what gets a lot of people in trouble here, because they're going to pay down for Sutton. But realistically, what are you really looking for here? What do we think is obtainable in this spot here? So yes, the value is there, but I don't think he's a must play.
If you want a good leverage play this week for Denver, just play their defense and play their starting running back, because everyone's going to play Sutton. So go the other way.
I like it.
All right, one area we do have some clarity. It's the next man up situation for the Bears offensive line, at least the next few weeks. Kyle Long, week to week with a foot injury, may wind up on injured reserve. That wouldn't be so great. Any members of that Chicago offense that you're still interested in playing, Jeff?
This one looks a little thin. I mean, it's more from the perspective of, again, this game is just projected to be out. It's at such a low game total of like under 40 points. I really think that the player you still want to target is Tariq Cohen. His price has gone up a little bit, but he's on the field like for more and more snaps every week. He played 60% of the snaps last week, or just under 60% of the snaps. And again, it's just the receiver, the rushing. You know, he's involved in all parts of the offense now. And when you get that nice PPR floor, even in these bad, game conditions, he's still going to be involved. So I think pairing Cohen, and if you are going to pay up for the Bears defense, you can just play Cohen with him because he returns kicks. So that's the one player I want to target, especially with the receivers a little bit banged up this week.
Reed, is Tariq Cohen the only option, as Jeff talked about, or would you think about Allen Robinson, maybe some of the others?
Not in this spot. I think when you have a low implied game total, like we were talking about, Jeff was saying, I mean, these guys are favored by 9, and it's about like a 30-something or 37, 38 implied game total. It's going to be run heavy, right? Chris Long is on the right side, so you think, okay, maybe they just go away from him. But this really is another point to marry offensive line skill and talent-wise with the running backs. So Jordan Howard potentially gets a peg down, but not really, right? It's Tariq Cohen. The Bears are 10th in terms of run percentage of what they do, and Chicago is 5th in offensive run DVOA. So when you look at what they can do and what they want to do, it just means more Tariq Cohen in this spot. Maybe you do more jet sweeps. Maybe you do more towards the left, because Chris Long is someone that they do depend on that offensive line. But again, this doesn't really move the needle in this game. It's just Tariq Cohen.
Bukes, you want to make it a sweep?
Yeah, it's got to be a sweep here. I mean, these guys have pretty much nailed it already, but Cohen has just been so involved in this offense as of late, averaging 21 DK fantasy points over his last 5 games, 7.2 targets in that span. Cohen's the play here. You don't really want to take a look at the Bears receivers. At least the Bills can't score points, but they also have been pretty good at keeping points off the board as well. They're really good against opposing receivers. So Cohen is really the only play, plus the Bears defense that I would consider here.
All right. Good stuff, guys. You'll be back on with us one more time, so stand by. Coming up next. Yeah, no, just take a breath and we'll be good to go. Coming up next, we're going to knock out some pucks first, and Brendan Glasheen will get us started.
Here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash, I'm Brendan Glasheen. We find ourselves asking the same question again this week. Hey, aren't Thursday night football games supposed to be good this year? No, they're not. 1-6 Raiders at the 1-7 Niners. Injured quarterbacks, banged up running backs, underwhelming receivers. All of this on a short week. So how are we constructing lineups tonight for the Showdown Captain Contest? Wait a sec. There is some value here. The tight ends. Go get them both. Jared Cook, he caught his first touchdown in over a month last Sunday against Indy. The veteran also led Oakland in receiving yards, starting to emerge as Derek Carr's favorite target, especially with Amari Cooper in the rearview mirror and Martavis Bryant role a little misty now for him. Cook's 14,100 in the captain slot, 9,400 at flex. Then there's George Kittle. He's had at least 6 targets in each of San Fran's last 6 games. The 25-year-old also has 50 receiving yards, at least in 6 of his last 8. 13,500 as your captain, 9K as a flex. More good news for both of these guys. The Raiders, the Niners, their defenses, 2 of the worst when it comes to defending tight ends. Cook and Kittle, locks for your Thursday night football lineups.
Thank you, Brendan. Hockey talk now, and Joe Holka from the Action Network is with us, as is Sean Newsham from the same home. We're going to do a little bit of NHL chase fade, guys. First one, Joe. Mikko Rantanen is one of the hottest skaters out there right now, 9-game point streak. Chase or fade his hot streak continuing tonight against the Flames?
Rantanen is a fade for me. I'm not really interested in paying up at winger today. There's just so many good options at center like McDavid and Crosby. And I think that starting your lineups in that spot just makes a lot more sense. If I am paying up at winger, it's probably going to be for Taylor Hall for $100 cheaper. That matchup against Detroit is just a lot stronger, 5th most shots against. So a lot more interested in a guy like Hall than going back to Rantanen.
Joe, I like the jacket. What do you say, Sean?
Yeah, Rantanen's an easy fade for me as well. He's been propped up by his assist total. He's got 16 assists thus far in the season, and he has 21 points. I believe he just won Player of the Month for October. but he's just not a volume shooter. He only has 29 shots on the season. I'd much rather play a guy like Jonathan Marchessault, who has 52 shots on the season. He's just a much better volume shooter and also has a good matchup tonight as well. So for me, Rantanen's an easy fade.
All right, Sean. John Gibson is the highest priced player at 8,400. He hasn't won a game in his last 4 starts. Are you chasing, or you fading him for earning a W tonight versus the Rangers?
I think there's a possibility he gets a win, but I'm an easy fade on Gibson tonight. When you look at the slate and you look through, there's not tons of value out there tonight. So I think you're really going to need to get some savings in. So for me, my favorite spot on the night is in Edmonton with Mikko Koskinen. He is 7,300, and he is the biggest favorite on the slate, or right there among them. So when you can get that type of savings with a massive favorite, I would much rather look there and save the $1,000 in salary.
All right, Joe, how do we feel?
I agree with Sean. I think that it's a pay down spot today, especially for the Edmonton goaltender in such a good spot for a cheap salary. But if you are kind of pay up to be contrarian in tournaments, I definitely think Gibson's in play. I mean, 152 home favorites, like it's pretty strong money line there for them. And this game in general is just going to have a lot of pace to it. Both teams are bottom 3 in shots against. So if the goalies end up playing really well, it could shape up for a lot of saves.
Connor McDavid, we know how good this kid is. Goals in 5 straight. He has got a nice matchup against an easy Blackhawks defense that so far has just been kind of pitiful. So chase or fade 2, not 1, but 2 goals from McDavid, Joe.
Yeah, anything for any other player in the league, probably you can't chase 2 goals, but it is a really good spot for Connor McDavid. So I'll say chase. 9th most shots against for the Blackhawks, and they have allowed the 12th most penalties this year as well. Not that any of that really matters for Connor McDavid as one of the best players in the entire league. I think he's one of the best guys to pay up for in general today.
Sweatometer is burning up, Sean. You like 2 for him?
Yeah, I'm going to chase it as well. I'll even be a little bit more optimistic with it. I think he even can score a hat trick tonight.
Taking the trick.
I like it.
I think he could get the hat trick tonight. He's been fantastic recently. Chicago's very poor. Patrick Kane is still a game-time decision and may not play tonight. But for me, Connor McDavid's the best player in the league. He has a goal in 5 straight games. And not only that, his shot volume has been way higher than it normally would be for him. He's playing with more talented people this year as well. They sort of got rid of Milan Lucic off his line. So you have him skating with Drake Caggiula and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins tonight. So I think there's a decent chance he could go off tonight.
All right, hey, I like it. Hattie, can't really beat that. That's probably one
not
I
often
listen
you can
to.
chase the trick.
Yeah,
but
I like it.
You're talking about the MVP.
There you go. All right, time for slate approved picks. Sean, who do you have?
For me, I'm going to look at Tampa Bay. Ryan McDonough is getting top power play time and is going to be playing the most minutes tonight. They have Victor Hedman out. In the last game with Hedman out, McDonough scored a goal, had 2 assists, had 5 shots, and 3 block shots to get 11.5 DraftKings points. You cannot find those type of plays for 4,500, and with value being very difficult tonight, I think Ryan McDonough is my slate-approved lock and slate.
All right, Joe, who do we like?
Yeah, I love McDonough as well. I'm going to go in that same game we've been talking about with Oscar Klefbom at 5,600. You do get correlation to McDavid on that first power play unit, and just getting a defenseman in the mid-range like this, something I typically like to do for someone that has the peripheral stats he does, 94th percentile in shots plus blocks, a guy that's just going to get a lot of ice time with McDavid tonight. And I agree with Sean that it's a chance that these guys get completely nuts.
All right, guys, thank you very much for hanging with us for a little bit. Quick and dirty for you. We're going to let you go because we got to get back to football. It's just, 'tis the season.
Exactly.
So first, a little hiatus to the hardwood.
Carolyn Azak in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. It will be a playoff-type atmosphere tonight as the undefeated Bucks visit Boston to seek revenge against the Celtics. It's the first meeting between these 2 teams since that tough 7-game playoff series, which saw the Celtics come out on top without Kyrie Irving or Gordon Hayward. And now fully loaded C's team will be looking to hand the Bucks their first loss of the season while making it 4 straight wins. Boston has found their groove to shake off their slow start, and Kyrie Irving with a fresh new haircut was electric Tuesday night with a win over the Pistons, putting up a season high of 31 points. He comes in at 7,700 on tonight's 6-game slate. The C's defense could be tested as the Bucks have averaged 120 points per game, and they are getting the Greek freak back after missing a game while in the NBA's concussion protocol. Giannis comes in as the 2nd highest priced player tonight at 11,100. The Celtics swept a home-and-home series against the once undefeated Detroit Pistons. So, could we see them rise See what I did there? And take down another? Or will the Bucks make franchise history with an 8-0 start?
Should be a good game in Boston tonight on the hardwood, but back here on the sweat as we continue to talk NFL as Week 9 kicks off tonight in the Bay Area. But let's take a further look into the weekend and peruse some of the more interesting price swings.
And ideally just different action than that Thursday night
game.
You know,
really just don't want to talk about it. That's basically what we don't want.
That'd be great. But play the contest, really, because that's the only thing that kind of makes it interesting. Yeah. All right, to talk about the weekend action, we're going to bring back our analysts, DK Live, Steve Buchanan, Jeff Ulrich, and Reed Fowler. There are all those, well, nodding faces. I don't know about smiling anyway. Guys, we're going to look at a bunch of pass catchers this weekend, the slate. Why not start at the top? One of the elite receivers in the game, DeAndre Hopkins. He shot up the price chart as he is up 700 bones from last weekend to 8,300 for Sunday's matchup with the Broncos. Of course, does have a new teammate in Demaryius Thomas. So with that in mind, does this price make sense? I mean, they're going to want to give Thomas the ball against his former club, right, Bukes?
Yeah, I mean, they'll definitely push that narrative there. But one thing that Hopkins has that Demaryius doesn't is that he has the trust of Deshaun Watson here. And I think that's just something you have to take into consideration. I definitely don't mind this price point here for Hopkins. He has such big play upside. And then Kiki Kote also, he has a tough matchup against Chris Harris out of the slot. So that's not going to be a good spot for him either. But Hopkins is averaging just under 10 targets a game. But the thing I do want to mention here is that if you have the money to go up to Hopkins, I feel like Adam Thielen's going to be the play here. I feel like that's the guy you're going to want to go for if you're going to be going this high up at receiver. Thielen has had over 100 receiving yards every single game this season. So if you're in that price range, maybe just pay up a little bit more and get Thielen. But Hopkins, if that's all you can afford, definitely nothing wrong with him either.
Jeff, you in line with that, or would you prefer to stick around the Texans here?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about DeAndre Hopkins in this matchup. I mean, he really benefited from having Will Fuller on the field just to stretch things and you know, not get double covered every time. Demaryius Thomas is actually going to have the better matchup here against Bradley Roby. He's kind of been the guy that's been getting burned all year. So, but I worry. I mean, because Demaryius Thomas isn't Will Fuller. I mean, he's kind of a shell of him for his former self. So I'm not sure how this is actually going to work out for Houston. And it's his first game. So I think this is a tough spot for DeAndre Hopkins. I wouldn't pay up for him this week. I feel like the price increase wasn't justified just because the matchup isn't quite as good as it might appear. I know Denver's had a few given up a few big games, but no, I agree with Steve. I'd much rather go Thielen.
Reed, you worried about Thomas taking anything away, any touches, targets away from Hopkins here?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, right? I mean, he gets traded and then he faces his former team the very next week. And so, you know, he probably knows them best, but vice versa, right? Like, who wins out in that matchup, the defense or Demaryius Thomas? Jeff's right. The wide receiver 2 is the matchup to exploit against Denver. The 27th against wide receiver 2 is in pass DVOA. But, you know, it's Will Fuller. I will say this for Hopkins, though, at that price tag. He sees 3 more targets without Will Fuller. That goes up to 12. Now, the quality, which Jeff mentioned, of those targets aren't as good, right? The 9 targets single coverage for DeAndre Hopkins, we see what he can do when he's able to get single coverage. So 8,300, agree with Bukes here. He is in that elite target range, but in terms of the quality of targets, I'd rather go to Thielen as opposed to Hopkins in this spot.
Yeah, I feel like if I did Thielen, he'd go for like 20 yards for the game. I just feel like that's my luck in
I don't
fantasy.
know, man. That guy's indestructible right now.
Yeah, but I haven't played him yet, so maybe I'm the kryptonite on this one.
Well,
so
stay away from him then.
How have you not played him yet?
Listen, just running away from him. I have Diggs in season long, and it's just been killing me. He's not practicing past 2 days.
Reed will be really happy to know that I have Thielen in season long.
Oh, I'm very happy for you.
Yeah,
we are facing each other in the DK Live League, so you know what? We might have to go toe-to-toe here after the show.
Oh, what league is that? I didn't get invited.
You can have my team, Bukes.
Yeah, hey, well, you know what? It's all right. It's perfectly fine. All right. You know what? The Browns, we know the Browns. They're the Browns. You know, they're going to fire their head coach. They're going to fire their offensive coordinator.
Sure.
Then they're heading into the weekend. That's a huge question mark, but it maybe comes with potential value. And Jarvis Landry, he's only $6K against Kansas City. Reed, do we like the touches for Landry here that he's going to get? Or because he's a Browns player, like, you know, is that going to be, you know, all good here going into this?
Let him finish
I think
the question.
so. Yeah, I think so. I think that price tag isn't bad for a guy like Landry. I mean, you look at that pace of play, they're second, and it's only Baltimore running 70 plays per game, and they're going to be playing catch-up for most of this game against Kansas City. So I don't mind the price tag so much. I do like a player, and I think Jarvis is 6,500. I could be wrong, but Cooper Kupp is at 6K. So to me, I'd rather pay that $6K for Cooper Kupp. He was back at practice. Sean McVay is saying he's probably going to play in this spot. New Orleans is 21st in pass D, defending against the middle of the field, 32nd and number 2 in pass DVOA. Cooper Kupp is in a prime spot. He might get some ownership relief because he's been injured and people haven't been seeing him. He's in a prime spot. That offense needs Cooper Kupp. Well, they don't need him, but they're so much better with him. So I like Cooper Kupp in that spot, but I don't mind the price tag for Jarvis.
And Reed, don't worry about it. Jump all over me when you get good takes like that all the time. It's perfectly fine. Bukes, what do you got?
You know, the problem with Landry is he's getting all these targets, but he's just not connecting on them at all. He has 94 total targets on the year. He's only caught 49 of them for 528 yards, which ends up averaging out to just about 66 yards per game. I mean, but if there's a week that they can maybe finally figure it out, you think it would be against the Chiefs. I will say, though, the Chiefs actually haven't been terrible against opposing slot receivers. Kendall Fuller has been pretty good thus far. He's allowing only about 13 yards per reception this season. And while he does operate out of the slot mostly, he does spend 35% of his time out of the slot. So he'll get those favorable matchups on the sides there. But yeah, it's just Landry has just been so frustrating because for a guy that's getting 94 targets on the season and to connect for just over half of them, definitely pretty frustrating. So if you can stomach it, yeah, Landry's in a great spot, but he's just not connecting right now.
All right, Jeff, are you with that? I mean, good matchup, but there's other guys like Cooper Kupp, similar price. Where are you going to go?
It's really tempting because we finally got a price break on Jarvis Landry. He was way overpriced for like 3 or 4 weeks, and as Steve mentioned, he wasn't producing, so he was kind of turning into an easy fade. But this is a really good matchup, and it's kind of one I want to target in tournaments. And I think if you're thinking about using Baker Mayfield, you're going to either use him with Landry and Njoku. So this is the right week to take a chance on like a Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry stack. I don't view him as like a must play or a guy you got to jam into a cash game lineup. And again, there's another game there with a 60-point total in New Orleans and the Rams. You have Brandon Cooks. You got Cooper Kupp at this price range too. So he's not a must play, but it's an interesting stack to think about the Browns this week. I don't know how big the Greg Williams head coach feels like they're going from like Steve Carroll's office character to Ricky Gervais' office character head coach. So I don't know how much of a boost you're going to get, but it's interesting.
All right.
I like the analogy, though.
I know, I liked it.
That's good.
All right.
No, you don't hear that a lot.
We talked about this guy earlier in the show. He's a potential sleeper in this one. Seahawks receiver David Moore. He's been pretty good over the last 3 games, catching at least 1 touchdown in each of those contests. Super cheap, $3,900 against the Chargers, though. So is this a steal going into the weekend, Jeff?
You know, like I said before, too, I mean, he's maxed out at 4 targets a game. I know he's really efficient, and Russell Wilson is his quarterback, so he could definitely still keep paying off. And there's really no reason why he can't in this spot. I mean, we have a pretty decent point total between these 2 teams at 48, 2 pace-down teams. So when you see a point total that high, it's kind of interesting. It's a close point spread, too. I think it's kind of a sneaky game to target this week. Russell Wilson's been playing really well. It does boost his upside a bit. Just realize he's really boom or bust. I mean, 4 targets a game is nothing. He's basically got to find the end zone again. He's got to bust a big play. So could he do it? Sure. Is he, is he turning into a must play or anything? For me, not really. If you want to target this game, though, he's a good, cheap way to get a piece of it.
Reed, you brought up more earlier in the show. How do we feel?
Yeah, I like him in this spot, especially if a lot of people are flocking to Courtland Sutton in tournaments. You know, Courtland Sutton is obviously a cash lock when you get that type of value at that price tag. But 71% of the snaps, I know David Moore's only seen 4 targets, but that's not necessarily because of his talent. It's because they're running the ball so efficiently. So yes, that kind of eats into his potential upside, but he's still getting those touchdowns, like Jeff mentioned, that we need to see a touchdown. Does he do it for a 4th straight time? Maybe not. Maybe he gets more targets in this spot because the Chargers, again, are 19th against wide receiver 2s and 27th against all other receivers in pass DVOA. So they really lock down. Shaquem Griffin really locks down, Casey Hayward really locks down at number 1. And these number 2s can really flourish, or number 3s can really flourish against the Chargers. And so for me, I do like David Moore in this spot. If I can get him at 2 to 5% ownership in tournaments, I'm going to play that.
All right, Bukes, do you expect him to get into the end zone here? Are you even playing that? How do we look at him?
I mean, I don't mind if his matchup is pretty good against Trevor Williams. He's allowed 330 yards on 29 receptions with 3 touchdowns scored. But again, like these guys have been saying, if he doesn't score here, I mean, there's a big chance that he could end up being a bust here. Like realistically, in any of those games that he scored, you take away that score, what's he hovering around? Maybe 9 DK fantasy points, 10 DK fantasy points. I mean, that's not going to get it done. That's not going to win you any of the monies that we're all hoping for. So, I mean, he's someone that you can definitely consider if you need to pay down. I could definitely would see that. But again, like Jeff said, he's not someone you need to play here. We need to see more out of him. And these touchdowns every week is obviously not sustainable. So when that does happen and you end up, unfortunately rostering him there, could end up being a big bust here. So
I feel like the way, if you want to target this game, might just be just to play Russell Wilson as your quarterback and then like maybe one other Charger, and that's it. I don't know, because you're just guessing on the Seahawks receivers. So.
All right, guys. Well, Devontae Parker. Yeah, let's talk about Devontae Parker. It's enough of those guys. Devontae Parker exploded last weekend, about 22 DK points. Now that the deadline, of course, is passed and drama with the Dolphins seemingly is on pause, maybe, hopefully. Yeah, we'll see. We're basically halfway through the year. 4,600. Is that the right price for him against the Jets, Reed? What do you think?
I mean, it could be, 4,000 and I'm not playing Devontae Parker. He's like a guy who belongs in your team, Koff. It's like one of those guys that doesn't necessarily, he shows his upside. He shows that he's a talented receiver and why he was drafted so high. But we talked about it earlier. There are other values in this spot like Danny Amendola, Jakeem Grant is in the mid 3K range, and Chris Godwin, 4,400 with Ryan Fitzpatrick coming back. And again, a pretty high implied game total. Seeing a ton of targets, seeing more targets with Fitzpatrick in. Carolina is 17th in pass DVOA against number 2s. Chris Godwin is that guy. It's also a spot for Djax, again, in that price range. And so Devontae Parker, we've seen it, but no way, I'm not playing Devontae Parker at all.
Just want to point out, for what it's worth, I have a winning record.
Yeah, that's true.
Crap on my roster
we
are
slated to.
No one cares.
If we keep it going, we are playing each other in the playoffs, too. This could be back-to-back weeks there, Bubs.
I know the longer we talk about that, definitely.
Okay, let's talk about things that people are actually interested in so we can move this along.
No, it's a good idea. Jeff, what do you think of Devontae Parker?
I'm excited.
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not really a Devontae Parker fan either. It does feel like a pretty good spot. I mean, just because the Jets secondary is so bad, I don't want to play him, but it does lend itself to playing him at this price. I was kind of hoping he'd be like 5K so I could just say, oh, he's too expensive, but I don't know. I really don't have a solid answer. I think Danny Amendola is the much safer play. It does feel like a pull out the rug from underneath you, like Devontae Parker usually does. He has one good game and then he disappears, but you look at the matchup, you look at who else Miami has. I mean, they have a couple miniature slot receivers, and then they have Devontae Parker, who was a really talented end zone target in his college career. So I think I'd skip him for cash games, that's for sure. I think if you want to plug him into a few tournament lineups and go for that upside, I think it makes sense. But just realize, this guy's got a history of disappearing after a good game.
Steve, could you give me a solid answer, pal?
Well, I mean, honestly, to be fair, this question is best answered after we get a definitive status on Kenny Stills. I mean, once we know if he's in or out, that's going to be the difference maker here. So, I mean, this might be better for tomorrow when we actually get a thing there.
All right, we're doing the show today, so why don't you outline it for me?
Can I finish?
All right, Ross Perot, go ahead.
Thanks. But truly, the Stills is going to really, dictate if you want to play Parker here or not. I do have to mention a second segment talking about the Dolphins receivers is a little too much. I apologize to anybody who's watching. There's too much Dolphins talk here.
Way too much Dolphins talk.
Amendola is going to be the play here. If you're going to play anybody on the Dolphins, if Stills is in or if Stills is out, Amendola is going to be the play here. He has the best matchup against this Jets secondary. That's going to be the guy you want to go to. So if you want an answer, Kaufman, if you really want to put a gun to my head, I would say no. It's Amendola. I'm losing my voice getting so angry.
All right,
about the Miami Dolphins, no less.
Can we please run the rundown past Steve next show, please?
Yeah, we'll take away the Miami Dolphins talk.
See what I can get back.
Kaufman goes to one parade. Now he's a tough guy.
That was my third. We'll keep you posted, Bukes.
There you go, boys. All right, appreciate the insight and us talking, or just me talking about our fantasy teams. Coming up next, we're going into some NBA showdowns tipping off tonight. But first, Pat Mayo is going to put a bow on the NFL talk with his Buffalo Wild Wings hot picks.
Pat Mayo here with your Thursday night hot picks for the Week 9 opener, Raiders, Niners, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. Sometimes if you're looking for a competitive Thursday nighter, chuck two teams together who are pretty equal, even if that means they're equally bad. And this is what we get from the San Francisco side of things, squaring off the team that generates virtually no pressure
should be a big boost for the passing game. For the Raiders, Brendan LaFell's somewhat intriguing, but may draw Richard Sherman on the outside, which sounds like a losing battle. Who knows how much the other receivers are going to play, and in the backfield, Doug Martin actually outsnaps Rocket Richard, but Doug Martin's terrible, so pass on that. That just leaves Derek Carr. Without Marshawn Lynch, passing the ball is Oakland's best bet in the red zone, so take the guy slinging it around. Basically, why buy the steak when you can buy the cow? Those are the Thursday night hot picks for Raiders-Niners. I'm Pat Mayo.
All right, welcome back. Final few moments here at the Sweat, and we are going to put the finishing touches on the NBA as we've got a showdown matchup, a couple of them actually, to break down. Now, for more on that, we're going to bring back our experts, Adam Mancuda of Phantom Sports, also the Action Network's Matt LaMarca. Guys, hello.
And
hello.
We're ready to go.
Just a nod is fine. It's good.
It's fine. That nod is all we need.
Just a recognition.
We have two showdown contests tonight. Kings, Hawks, Pelicans, Trailblazers. Which one of these games are you targeting, Adam?
First, you guys had asked for that Jason Kidd throwback.
Yeah.
Ooh, all right. I like
it.
Here we go.
I'll give you Jamal Mashburn. I mean, more random. Come on, let's do that. To me, I want to go with the second game there, Pelicans, Blazers. Outside of Trae Young, why are we watching the Hawks? Who cares? So give me the guys with the upside here. Anthony Davis is most likely out tonight, so look for Drew Holiday, Mirotic, Randall, Lillard. I mean, you got so many guys here that could get in the lineups. That's the game I'm looking forward to. Plenty of points. You don't have to worry about seeing plenty of bricks with the Hawks. So give me the second game then.
Did Matt change into Grant Hill? That's what all I want.
No, unfortunately, my Jersey game is pretty limited. I agree 100% with Adam that the second game is much more appealing from a basketball fan standpoint. And it's an easier game, right? Like with Davis out of the lineup, there becomes a lot of really intriguing options on the Pelican side. And obviously, what you're going to get from the Blazers as well. But I'm actually leaning towards the first game here. I think that the plays are going to be much more spread out. There's not going to be as much chalk. So I think that gives you more opportunities to kind of get an advantage on the field.
All right, so in that match between New Orleans and Portland, Matt, who is a guy worth slotting into that captain spot?
I'm looking at Julius Randle. He's the cheapest of the big three Pelicans guys, with him, Mirotic, and Drew Holiday. He's averaged 1.41 DraftKings points per minute when Davis has been off the court this season, which is more than Mirotic and Holiday. And he's also seen the second highest usage bump on the team with Davis off the court. He scored over 44 DK points in his first start without AD. So give me the savings with Randle.
All right, Adam, who is wearing the C?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Holiday here. We talked about him earlier. I just love the matchup for him. Lillard plays no defense. He's going to have the ball in his hands all night long. I think he'll score over 25 points like he did last night. I think he'll get upwards of 10 to 12 assists as well tonight. Fast-paced game, so give me Holiday. I know you have to pay up for him, but I'm willing to do that with some other options out there.
All right, let's go over to that other matchup between the Kings and Hawks. Who's going to wear that imaginary C, Matt?
I'm going with Willie Cauley-Stein. I think you definitely want to target someone on the Kings side. They have the more appealing fantasy assets in this game. But Cauley-Stein is the guy with the highest ceiling to me. He's got the highest ceiling projection in our models in this game. He's played over 30 minutes in 4 straight games, and when he's been on the floor, he's been really effective this year. And I also think he'll have a little lower ownership than Buddy Hield and Nemanja Bjelica. So give me Cauley-Stein as my captain.
Evidently that C for Cauley-Stein here. What do you say, Adam?
Yeah, first of all, kudos on pronouncing that guy's name. I didn't want to pick him just because I didn't want to say his name. But give me Buddy Hield. 2 straight games with over 46 points and 4 straight over 32. I like the sharpshooter here. I think he's going to have a huge night against the Hawks in a game that should probably feature a bunch of points, but a bunch of bricks as well. I think Hield will get in the rhythm and get, probably anywhere from 18 to 22 points, and then obviously it go over probably 30 points for the night.
All right, we got to move quickly here, guys. So basically just names, but some value plays. Who are lower-level guys that you can save some money on heading into both these contests? Adam?
Yeah, I like DeAndre Bembry of the Hawks, averaging 25 points in his last 4. So I like him there, and I'll turn it over to Matt for the other one since we're running out of time.
Yeah, there are some obvious Pelicans guys, but give me Sheck Diallo. He's a really efficient 1.46 DK points per minute on the floor this season, so he'll get a handful of minutes with Davis out. Give me him at basically the minimum.
Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. I look forward to seeing what jerseys you have for us next time.
You got it, my friend.
All right, we'll let those guys go. Again, 2 Showdown contests tonight. Obviously, you know, you should pay close attention. Pay close attention to this show, as a matter of fact. We always appreciate when you join us. The Sweat comes at you weekdays, 6 to 7 Eastern. You don't want to miss a show. Don't want to miss a minute. We even have some celebrities coming your way tomorrow, so just something to keep you in some suspense, I guess, right? In the meantime, if you missed any of tonight's edition, you can find it on Facebook Live, YouTube, The Sweat's Twitter, in your dreams, wherever you're normally cozy up to us, it's there, all right? Till tomorrow, get back to that candy. This guy is. All right, we'll see you later.